Hi, Hannah. How are you?
Hi, I'm doing pretty good. Super ready for today's session materials. Can't wait. There's so many things going on with classes. So yeah.
Right. Okay. Well, I'm super excited to get started too. Is there anything you want to talk about this past week? How have your classes been going?
They've been pretty good. Like honestly, I'm just so excited for this semester because I'm ready to make A's this semester, I'm ready to start studying and taking notes. And I've really been trying to study 3 or 4 hours for each class per day. I'm super ready for this semester.
Wow, that is so impressive. I'm so excited for you. I think that's, actually the perfect segue into the skill that we're going to talk about today, which is self-quizzing.
Oh, that's so
So,
exciting. Can't wait.
oh, yes, I'm glad you're excited for it because trust me, I am too. So let me fire up my screen share. Brilliant. All right. So if you come right here, you can see all of these crazy worksheets we got, and we're going to focus on this one. So, self-quizzing is a different name for an output activity. And there are two types of, main activities that we use when we're studying. So the first is input activities. Go ahead and read this blurb out loud, please.
Okay, so input activities typically result in familiarity with material, much like your familiarity with a penny in the common sense activity above. They involve using resources to understand material and commonly include listening to lecture, working problems with the help of books or notes, looking over notes, and passive reading. If all of your study tasks are input activities, it's easy to write a test time feeling as if you know the material, but not perform as well as you thought you were going to on the exam.
Exactly, right. So do you have, any sense of maybe doing these input activities and not getting what you wanted out of them?
Yeah, I think so. I feel like maybe part of my motivation is I didn't do so well on my first round of exams. And so when I'm looking at this, I'm thinking, okay, maybe I just wasn't motivated enough, or I was just kind of looking at my notes and thinking I was taking in material, but I feel like I wasn't really taking it in. So just feel like maybe my input activities, that's all I'm doing, I think. So
Right. So I think that's a really astute observation, and that is perfect because I can introduce you to output activities, which I can guarantee are going to get you much closer to the results that you're hoping for. So go ahead and now read the blurb for output activities.
output activities require you to actually generate what you have learned all on your own and prove that you have mastered material without the need for resources. They include explaining what you have learned from memory, teaching concepts to others, working problems without books or notes, and applying what you've learned to new situations. They require you to retrieve information from memory, much like a quiz does, and they are key to success on most college level exams. The best predictor of how a student will perform at test time is how much time the student spent retrieving information from memory.
Beautiful. So now that we've got these different examples, let's, just to make sure that you've got it, come up with some specific examples to what an output activity and what an input activity is. So I'm just going to say something and then you go ahead and tell me if it's input or output.
Okay.
Great. Reading over your textbook.
I think that's an input activity.
Yes, that would be an input activity. Okay, highlighting and circling through your notes.
Think maybe that would also be an input activity.
Yes, it would be. Though it's not as passive as just reading a textbook, you are still taking in information and you're not actually self quizzing yet, right?
I see. You should have seen my textbook from the first chapter. I had highlighted almost every single sentence. So,
You are so amazing, right? I mean, to put that kind of effort in is really good, but it, like we saw, it doesn't always get the results you want.
yeah,
Brilliant. So those are both input. Now let's say that you are asking yourself questions as you look through the slides.
that would definitely be output because you're quizzing yourself, right?
Exactly. So long as you don't know the answer or the answer isn't right there, then yeah, that would totally be an output activity. Great. So another term for output activities is self-quizzing, like we've seen, and there are many different ways to self-quiz. Now, what's great is that there are different styles of self-quizzing depending on what type of class you're in. So there are, for starters, problem-solving classes. Let's see, can you come up with any examples of what might be a problem-solving class?
Maybe my calculus class.
Absolutely, your calculus class, 100%. Yes. What's another example?
Um, I'm not taking this class, but maybe my friend's biochemistry class.
Yeah, that would definitely be a problem solving class. And what's interesting is biochemistry is a great example of a class that is both problem solving and idea based, right? So
Yeah.
while problem solving classes focus on a lot of calculations and working through different problems, idea based classes are much more essentially centered around the idea or conceptual things like that. So an example of an idea-based class would be like history or English or even biochemistry because you are introduced to really important concepts, right?
Yeah.
Brilliant. So there's two main ways to self-quiz for each of those classes. So for problem-solving classes, the number one recommendation is randomization. You want to solve those problems that you're responsible for in the test, but you want to make sure you are randomizing them much like a test would, right?
Mhm.
So what you want to do is get an extra set of problems, a clean set, so no notes on them whatsoever from anything that you've done before. Once you have that clean set of problems, you want to just cut them into strips and just have one problem per piece of paper and throw it into a Ziploc bag, pull around, take a problem out, and solve it.
Okay.
How does that sound to you?
I think that sounds like a super awesome strategy.
Amazing. The next strategy for idea based classes is to write questions in the margins as soon as possible after class to use as quizzing questions. So, how realistic does that sound to you?
I think that's pretty realistic, especially like after class. I guess that could help me with reviewing, you know?
I completely agree with that. Wonderful. So I want to briefly show you what that could look like when you do write your questions in the margins. And then we're going to talk about levels of learning. So let's start here. Go ahead and read through this first paragraph. And when you're done, just let me know.
Okay, I'm done.
Beautiful. So now that you're done, let's come up with some self quizzing questions that you could write in the margins of your notes.
Okay.
We can start with just this paragraph right here. What's a self quizzing question that you can ask yourself?
Maybe we could ask, what was the best hunting gig?
Perfect. So let's now just answer that for convenience's sake. What was the best hunting gig?
Fishing.
All right. And then what's the next self quizzing question that naturally occurs from that?
Um, what type of fish did they use, or what were the two qualities that fish had in the
Exactly.
hunting?
That's what I was looking for. We've seen why the best hunt, we've seen that the best hunting gig is fishing. Now the question is, well, why was it fishing?
Mhm.
Right? So go ahead and answer that. Why was it fishing?
Because it was abundant and fish were unlikely to eat you.
Okay, brilliant. So now that we've practiced self quizzing with these notes, I would like if we could go ahead and practice with your notes. So go ahead and pull up your notes. And
Okay,
once you're ready, just let me know and I will make it so that you can share your screen.
perfect. So let me pull up my notes. Okay, can you see my screen?
I can. That looks perfect.
Okay. So these are some of my notes from my health and society class. Um, so I guess one thing I could also do maybe is like leave some room on the sides for the margin so I could actually like have a self-quizzing and review section.
Perfect. That's exactly what I was going to recommend. So, just in order to model this for you, I'm going to come up with a few self quizzing questions, and then I would like you to not only answer those, but come up with your own. How does
Okay,
that sound?
sounds good.
Okay, perfect. So, let's start up here. So, how does sociology try to understand the social world?
So it looks at like relationships between people and groups and other like systems.
Exactly. Perfect. Now, um, what are the three tenets that sociology is about according to Alan Johnson?
It's about the world out there, us as individuals, and the connection between the two.
Brilliant. Okay, so now if you don't mind, go ahead and scroll down a bit and let's just have you come up with three self quizzing questions.
Okay. So maybe one could be like, what are some examples of different social systems? And then like one is like, the healthcare system or family. Um, Another one is maybe like a true or false question, like can systems be embedded with each other? And that would be true.
Right.
And then maybe another question could be like, what are the different levels of social systems? And I guess we'd get that from the graphic here. So like the macro, micro, and meso level.
Perfect. Wonderful. So I think that those are all great self-quizzing questions. Do you have any questions on how to come up with self-quizzing questions?
Nope, I think it's pretty straightforward.
All right, wonderful. So if you wouldn't mind stopping sharing your screen, and now we will go back to Safari. So notice that we've now come up with, some pretty good examples of idea-based self-quizzing questions, right?
Yes.
So we're now going to talk a bit about levels of learning, where I can hopefully kind of show you how to come up with self-quizzing questions for problem-based classes as well.
Okay.
So looking at the levels of learning, there are 3 primary levels. So we are largely going to be focusing on level 3 right here. But I would first like to explain level 1 and 2. So go ahead and read to me this description for level 1.
So level 1 is remember, which is recalling fundamental knowledge, concrete facts, dates, definitions, etc.
Perfect. These are the most basic of questions, right? And what's really cool about these is that you are going to see them a lot in high school, but not as much as in college, correct? Right. So typical words used are name, identify, label, define, match, recall, recognize, sort. And as you can see, we've got some examples here. So history, when was the Fourth Amendment ratified? Biology, what does DNA stand for? Can you go ahead and think of a level 1 question for one of your classes?
Yeah, maybe for sociology, that could be like, what is a social system?
Brilliant. Yes. So now let's go to level 2. Level 2 is about comprehending and understanding. So this is a lot more about the meaning and significance of facts and events, and you want to be able to explain or summarize ideas. So go ahead and read the words to me that give it away that it's a level 2 question.
Explain, discuss, generalize, give examples, interpret, restate, and summarize.
Perfect. Perfect. So now go ahead and read through these example questions once more. And then when you're ready, come up with an example level 2 question for sociology.
Maybe one could be discuss the 3 statements that Alan Johnson made in his book.
Perfect. That's amazing. Could you go ahead and give me another one?
Maybe give examples of social systems in the micro level.
Yes, brilliant. So now you are getting to a little bit more of what we might actually be expected to do on a college level test, right? Where they want us to discuss and give examples and, maybe even interpret those social systems. Brilliant. So now go ahead and read me this description to level 3.
Use your understanding of a subject to address a new situation.
Brilliant. And go ahead and read those words that give that away.
What if, apply, demonstrate, hypothesize, imitate, predict, relate, show, solve, use.
Brilliant. So this is the crux of what you will find on a college level exam. What we have found is that 60 to 80% of questions on college level exams fall between level 2 and level 3. All right. And an example of a class which is always going to center around level 3 questions on a test would be chemistry, right? Where you are never receiving the same question. You're always getting those new questions to really challenge you and see if you understand what you've learned. Right. So go ahead and once more read through these questions. And when you're ready, let's try to come up with a level 3 question for sociology.
Okay, so maybe a level 3 question could be, I can't think of something specifically, but maybe the professor might give like a situation and ask us like to apply like Alan Johnson's theories to that situation.
Right. Yeah, that's brilliant. I will come up with some level 3 questions just to demonstrate what that could look like for you. So how about we come over here to my own notes and we can come up with some.
Yeah.
All right, one moment. So this was a professor talking to us about a speaker. So this is what type of class? Problem-based or problem solving or idea-based?
This is idea-based.
Right. Okay. So we come here and we see that my professor asked us, what does it mean when the tools of that patriarchy are used to examine the same fruits of that patriarchy? So I think an example of a level 1 question would just be define patriarchy, right? Level 2 question could be give examples of tools of a patriarchy. And then a level 3 question could be how are the tools of a patriarchy used to oppress minority classes
Mhm.
in, and then I could name a specific state or a specific time period, which makes it application based if I haven't already done that for that same time period or date. Does that
Yeah.
sound good?
Mhm.
Brilliant. So I think that we've done it where we've gone through each of these levels. You've come up with some examples. I've demonstrated some examples for you. And now all that we have left to do is just keep coming up with self-quizzing questions together.
Okay, sounds good.
Wonderful. So now that we've talked about all of these different ways that we can self-quiz for idea-based and problem-based, I want to focus in on how to actually schedule each of those. So for idea-based classes, right, like sociology, where it's very dense and you're, talking about a lot of concepts, definitions, history, things like that, the best time for you to self-quiz is immediately after the class.
Okay.
Great. So, my question is after sociology, do you have time before your next class where you could sit down and self quiz?
So I have like half an hour before my until my next class, so maybe I could like sit outside the classroom and study.
That sounds perfect to me. Yes, that is brilliant. Now, with problem solving classes, we want to devote a little bit more time to just being able to sit there and really drill each of those problems that we're pulling out, right? And
Mhm.
just as a recap, if you are getting a new problem, one that you've never seen before, what level would that be?
That would be level 3.
Exactly. Yes. It would be an application type problem. Perfect. So let's say that you have, 30 problems to work through. I think that it would be good for you to probably set aside like a 1.5, 2 hour time block every week where you can just practice problems for your problem solving class. How does that sound?
I think that sounds manageable.
Brilliant. So let's go ahead and just look quickly at your calendar. So, what time do you think would be best to put aside that 2 hour slot to just practice self quizzing?
I think maybe Wednesdays, like 8 to 11 p.m. or 8 to 10 p.m.
Perfect. All right. So, that honestly seems really, convenient to me.
Mhm.
How about your homework for this week is to bring me back proof that you self quiz during that time slot, as well as level 1, 2, and 3 questions from your idea based sociology class.
Yeah, I can definitely do that. And I'll try to do it like all my notes. So I'll bring you all my notes.
I'm so excited. That sounds perfect. Well, I'm really looking forward to it, and I'll see you next week. Bye
Awesome.
bye.
Bye.